What's good with YouTube? Y'all already know. Big Flacco, ACP, a convict's perspective. Hoping everybody's having that positive weekend. Please hit the like, subscribe, comment, do all those things to help support your boy, and hit that bell notification for future fire content. Now, first off, before we get to these videos, right? There's always those people on the outside who never were about that life, not even from Northern California or anything, that always have something to say. People like Neta8105 or Neto, wants to sit there and call imposter and say full of it. Other individuals that want to, jump on that same coattail ride, right, and always speak about the things that I said, saying that they are not true. But there's a lot of people that can sit there and corroborate and confirm all the stuff that I have ever said to be facts. They are 100% facts. And this just people should just mind their own if they don't know. Okay, that's the funny thing about this is that you get those that were never about that life, or they're not even from that area, that like to speak on things and try to ridicule you as being a person that's not authentic or true in the stories that you tell. And so, there's a lot of stuff that happened during that time era, but from 2000 to 2007, when it came to the streets and NF activities and stuff in San Jose, I was basically at the center of a lot of it. And those are 100% facts. So before people sit there and jump in and speak on things they don't know, take a step back, because it's not your place. With that said, let's get to this video. Now, this video is about stuff that was going on from around 2004 to basically 2006. And this is when a big transition happened within the organization and with the San Jose Regiment. Okay, there's even newspaper articles that speak about this, that the San Jose Regiment was going to their own resources and was established on their own and were communicating with their own channels. Okay, now around that time era, Pocky had been out since about, 2002, I think he stepped out. Okay, and he had at that time regained control of the Salinas Regiment. He was voted into a position of basically captain and to be the basically street liaison commander for all regiments by brass, with jurisdiction over a lot of different regiments. Okay, basically in the meantime, as things get together, as DC was left in charge of the Bay. Okay, there was a 3-year struggle where Sanho resisted. Okay, they would have literally meetings discussing this issue several times. Okay, people could say what they want about Lencho, including myself, right? But I will say this: he had enough time and grade and influence and contacts to sit there and present a basically position of where the San Jose Regiment stood. The main part is all the stuff that San Jose had established at that time was established way before Salinas, because these individuals had been out there for a long time, and there was no reason for Salinas to disrupt the San Jose Regiment activities. Okay. In 2004, all the remaining defendants in Operation Black Widow took guilty pleas. Corney, Tibbs, all these individuals, right? Skip had already been up there in the feds for a minute, because he took a deal right off the top, because they wanted to get him to the feds to start recruiting. Okay? So he went into the feds with an undercover role to see what it was about, to be the eyes and ears, and to communicate with Mad Dog. Now, they learned about the elocution that you had to have when you pled guilty, and that's why a lot of people were not allowed to take deals thereafter with Skip till later on. Now, Happy, Bird, Stork, all these individuals that had access to go home and take deals is why the Brass took their deals in 2004. Now, at the same time as Brass took their deals, they had what you had in Pelican Bay, the short corridor, right, which is where all leadership were placed in D1 through D4 facilities, because we communicated with both the state and the feds at that time, because Chuco had influence as far as street activities out there in San Jose. Now, with all in disarray, and with Pocky wanting the San Jose Regiment to go to Salinas and report strictly to them, right, the Bay was kind of off limits with Chuco, and Brass were you couldn't touch base with them either. What the San Jose Regiment did is they reached out to Skip. Skip ended up being the contact they reached out to. And at that time, Skip took the position of basically running the San Jose Regiment and being that point of communication for the activities, the monies, and whatnot. Okay. Now with that, he requested that the San Jose Regiment recruit 3 individuals to become colonels. At that time, there was probably me and maybe one other person at that time that had a lot of experience as far as when it came to regiment activities pre-Operation Black Widow and post-Operation Black Widow. Okay, now I had already been approached 2 times to become a colonel at that time. Once by Wino Zarowski when he stepped out, who was an NF captain. Okay, and the position at that time was kind of hard to have it done because I was already in communication with Brass, and they had pretty much put Wino on the back burner. And the things that he had did in Modesto, which he recruited 2 individuals that sees over there, right? Even though he had authority jurisdiction to do so, he wasn't to do so at that time because he was in question himself already. Okay, he recruited Chino and Ching Ching, and they all got deemed. Okay, I played my cards right. I stayed communicating with Brass, Corny, and all those cats, right? Therefore, I didn't get caught up in that whole fucking issue. Okay, now the second time, people were there. 2002, San Quentin. Huicho from Saho, who had the authority to recruit for Cuete and for Skip, put me up as a candidate. At that time, even Lencho stood up for that to happen. But they wanted to wait for that to happen on the streets. Okay? There's an individual that be tapping in the comments here, Mr. Anderson, right? Who I know is Nano, who was an RA, who remembers when there was communication between me and the Carnales from the front bar to back bar because of me being an NF candidate to be recruited. Okay, now all that was supposed to transpire on the streets. Richu got out there, and instead of all that transpiring and me working with him, I pretty much had to save his ass out there and ended up catching a case in between. So I was very familiar with a lot of the NF laws. You know what I'm saying? I'd already received the Constitution. I had known a little bit more about the back history and certain things that regular Northerners and Norteños don't know. I was already held positions out there on the streets, and I was well versed, and I was liked by a lot of C's, and I generated a lot of fucking money. Okay. Now Skip reached out to basically recruit 3 individuals, like I said, right? And they were basically supposed to operate in the capacity as basically UCs at that time, undercover carnales. Okay. And that's what happened as far as the San Jose, and there was a few in Salinas that also got recruited at that time. One that I'm not even going to mention their name has been a C since back then, and to this day people don't even know it. I remember to this day where I was at when we first had the conversation about this. It was on San Carlos, driving with Colonel Weddle, and he was informing what was going to be going on and that they were going to be recruiting us based upon that we were now communicating with Skip. And that I was going to be put to take over his position as the RSD, Regiment Security Department, basically, right? Or Regional Security Department, as far as in the San Jose region under the regiment that we were. So I was supposed to be groomed to take his position as he was set to go and move to Texas to reestablish a new regiment out there in Texas. There was a few recruitments both in the state and feds in 2002, 2003 that didn't go too well, that people were questioning, right? Cyclone was one of them, right? When he got there, the system, they tried to question it. It eventually was honored, but he went through his little issues about it. You had a lot of other people that got caught up with the state. Nicoya, Listo, Gonzo, Diablo, all these individuals recruited and confirmed by Conejo. All their statuses got revoked. So at this time, while they were recruiting individuals, there was 2 reasons that they wanted to do this. One was for information purposes, to blend in and hear what the carnales are saying in the state when any of us were to enter the state. 2, to generate more income. There is still undercover carnales to this day, okay, that are either newly recruited or even recruited back then, okay. Now, there was always a purpose and reasons why, and during this time era was because it was a start of the conflict between the state and the feds. Okay. Previously, you had Chongo from Saho, who was undercover when he came out after the 92 indictments. The main reason why he was a UC was because of how hot it was. Okay. You had before Cesar, right? Pizza, who was undercover and sat on the Nuestra Raza Council. The reasons why is they wanted him to be informed on all NR activities, and this was overseen by Corning. Who do you think he was set up with? Corning at the time when he was running the NRC. Beto Palomino, right? Basically one of the ones that was a big money maker, right? Before he ever became a carnal. But they knew eventually he was going to hit the streets, and they wanted his identity as a C to be pretty much concealed, but at that time it eventually got revealed that he was one. As well as sometimes their statuses do get revealed because people talk too much, or an incident happens and one wants to assert control, or overstep their jurisdictions or make waves. Okay, and this is basically the process. So this is what was going on out there in a lot of different areas. Okay, and all this that was going on at that time was basically privileged information. It doesn't matter if you were a cardinal and you were at another institution up in the Bay, in another regiment, you were not going to know that this was going on because you kept your communications with just yourself and your regiment commander or whoever you were reporting to. Part of the UC position, right, was to basically prevent any type of conflict once anybody got locked up, because at that time, like I said, there was a power struggle for recruiting, and one side would not acknowledge the other recruits and vice versa. And there was a lot of that was becoming an issue. Sykes from fucking Goshen, fucking, like I said, Gonzo, fucking Nicoya, and all these individuals, the ones that were recruited by the state that the feds didn't acknowledge, when they got into the state in the Bay, they were acknowledged as C's in the Bay. Okay, same thing with the federal individuals, right? So that's why the need for undercover C's at that time was being pushed. Okay, there's been other people that were recruited to be C's as well. Eventually, sometimes information gets put out there. Someone doesn't take their UC position too much responsibility like they should, or they say it to the wrong person, and stuff starts to get out there. And that's happened a couple times where people's status had to be put out there based upon the fact that someone was submitting reports, and reports were going out there that this person was saying they were a C. This C doesn't know this person to be a C, and now there's a whole investigation. Okay, that happened more than one time. Okay, so that's the crazy thing about this, is that people speaking too much about their statuses at that time was getting people caught up. And that was like the main concern with anybody being recruited out of San Jose, even though it was under Skip at that time. Okay, like I said, there was a lot of issues between the state and Skip real fast. Now I'm going to provide you two sources that corroborate a lot of what I've been speaking on. The first one is from the Truth Filter. If you see from the last sentence, it says, ultimately curtailing most NF Street regiments with the exception of law enforcement C's operating on their own accord, e.g. Lencho de Sanjo. See, the Hill and Diamonds of Operation Valley Star hit every regiment but San Jose because San Jose was operating under their own accord and not under Salinas' guidance. It was communication though. But that was the communication Salinas trying to pull them to work under Paki. You see, there was 15 counties with regiments at that time. Now the next one is going to be an article that came out about the activities of Salinas as far as supplying all the regiments as far as an Operation Valley Star, with the exception of San Jose, Charlie Campa, okay, which was the RC that was in charge of the regiment I was under. There was Charlie Campa, then there was Wedo Abundes. Now the only reasons why you see these statements in the True Filter and in Monterey Herald, right, it's because at that time, like I said, the San Jose regiment was resisting any control that was coming from Salas. Went, communicated with Skip, and that's where all of us fell in line. I like how someone, will play a video from time to time, right, and put their own misinterpretation when they don't know nothing about NF laws. They don't know nothing about what was going on with the NF and internal conflicts at that time. So when someone says, hey, it depends on what side who was acknowledging who was who, you know what I'm saying? That's the truth of it, man. In the federal side, of course, it was all good with those that were there. State side, a lot of them had to go through the state process. See, that's what happened. A lot of dudes got to the states as UCs and then exposed their hands because they wanted to be acknowledged and acknowledged that they were carnals. Some of them got their statuses, some of them didn't. Some had to get it back from the feds. It was a crazy time era, like I said, man. That based upon what happened with me, I didn't have to deal with it afterwards. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, mine goes back all the way to 2005 when approached and told it was affirmed, right? So it doesn't matter at the end of the day. But this is what was going on with the conflict with Salinas, and and they really had nothing to do when it came to the statuses of individuals on this side, as far as in San Jose. Okay, but since it's brought up during this time era, I might as well kind of clarify because some people don't understand what I was getting at. And it's just kind of interesting how much hate that people want to they want to prove that you're not legit. They want to prove that you're not authentic. They want to prove that you're lying. But none of that's been proved. I've always told the truth. You know what I'm saying? And recognized what I did and what the functions were. You know what I'm saying? I was already functioning as a C all the way back to 2001. You know what I'm saying? With numerous attempts. So at that time, I was a very well experienced individual when it came to the streets. Of the Salinas, though, San Jose conflict, and then the San Jose, getting this directive from Skip at that time. Okay, and this is before the Sheridan incident, I believe. People are going to question as far as were things done legit. You know what I'm saying? Were they recognized? And see, sometimes in these situations when someone falls out, like they did that with Chongo, right? Chongo was a UC at one time, okay? But at the end of the day, they started saying that he was never a C. Just because of that, he's no longer active. They've done that time and time again with individuals just to sit there and deny them and say that they never were because it makes the organization look bad. I kind of put my status out there at that time in 2000, what was it, 6, with the whole Chino removal, you know what I'm saying, as well as some other things, you know what I'm saying, just so people knew, kind of had an idea if anything was to come up so we could get the investigation going on further, because there were certain question marks at that time. And I didn't want to have to go through fucking question marks and free statuses, so a lot of stuff was kind of revealed that shouldn't have been revealed on my end. But it is what it is, right? When Cornell wanted to try to sit there and look into the situation, Cornell from Sacramento and shit, who I kind of ignored anything that dude had to say. You know what I'm saying? Nothing personal. It's just I was already on one side and loyal to one side at that time. The San Jose Salinas thing, though, was kind of a little trickery because I had a lot of love for those dudes in Salas and I had relationships with those guys, man. And I was still doing business with Salinas when I wasn't supposed to. I was meeting up with Mo at the time from Fremont, doing business with him in lieu of Gabe from Salas around that time. And me and Gabe almost got whacked over that shit, believe it or not. I've been wanting to touch on a little bit of this, for a minute, right? But like I said, I got so much on my plate, man, with other things in my life. And at the time when all that was talked about, it just wasn't a good place with me. You guys know shortly thereafter I ended up having, that case I have now and had to bail out. So right now it's all a good time pretty much to address pretty much anything here and there. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, my main focus is my case and my mental health and everything else that goes with it. But when I come on here, man, I like to bring some of that real shit, man. And some of these things need to be corroborated and people kind of corrected and rectified. And it's kind of better for people to mind their own business because a lot of people that want to fucking sit there and look into it or address it, there's nobody to be looking into it or addressing it or questioning it. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of dudes, as you guys know, that tap in with me. I mean, look at some of the interviews that I brought forth on this channel. All from fucking past high-ranking NF members. You know what I'm saying? I communicate still with a lot of people, that were part of that former life that held all the way from Cat 3 to Cat 1 positions within the organization. Why? Because a lot of them know me personally. You know what I'm saying? And the message I'm trying to convey, it becomes a distraction basically, because people want to make a person look bad and they think they have the ammunition to do it, but they really don't. It's because they don't want to believe it, and that's just what it is, right? They're not hearing what they want to hear. They want to hear that you weren't about shit. They want to hear that you was a punk. They want to hear all that stuff, right? But there's nothing that can fucking sit there and validate that period as far as any actions as a man when I was fucking running within the organization or afterwards when I was out in the streets. I'm sorry. I'm always gonna be who I'm gonna be. And my past is what it is. There's no fucking denying it. There's no way I can sit there and say, well, okay, and just change the story just because someone else wants to hear something different. I'm not doing that for nobody. I live that life to the fullest on a real level, and no one can take that from me. I think it is important, though, for me to say this life will eat up at you. It's not what you guys think it is, man. I'd rather a person go out there and do something positive and help yourself and your family, man, because the gang life, especially on the politics, on the prison side, it's not worth it, man. It's a lot more work and stress than anything else, man. And not everybody cares or has the same righteous intentions as the next man. So, not to glorify any of my past, but it is what it is. And I wouldn't wish any of the things that I had to see, hear, or do on anybody. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm out.